Hello, and welcome to Realms of Consciousness. This show is presented by the New York office of the IIPC, the International Institute of Projectiology and Conscientiology. Projectiology is a science that studies the out-of-body experience, or astral projection, and Conscientiology is a science that studies the consciousness, or ego, or intelligent principle. The IIPC is a Brazilian non-profit institution of research and education that was founded in Rio de Janeiro in 1988 by Waldo Vieira, MD. The Institute's main office is in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and it also has 60 offices throughout Brazil, as well as 7 offices internationally, including New York, Miami, Ottawa, London, Lisbon, Buenos Aires, and Barcelona, and activities in China. In this show, we're going to be addressing issues related to consciousness research. Issues such as, do we survive physical death? Are there other dimensions? Do we have other bodies? Have we had other lives? These and other issues will be addressed throughout the series.
The main principle that make the support and the basis of our knowledge and our research and investigation here is the human projectability, is the phenomenon of the projectial conscience or projectability. With this, someone goes to the another dimension and keep the lucidity to be aware about another dimension, another vehicle, another body, and can with this take some knowledge, some lesson, and with this the personalities come to this dimension and develop another kind of recycling of the existence and the cosmoetic way that you can put in your life, and to understand yourself inside a line of a conscientiometry. With this, you are going to see that you don't die. Only your human body is deactivated after certain time, certain period, after your lifetime. With this, you don't have any big, to be, for instance, afraid, to be scared about the death. We talk about this, is the thanatophobia, is the phobia, to be scared, to die. With this, you make the elimination, you throw out all this big trouble and the big problem and the big disease of the mankind. Because you go outside your body and you see for yourself no self-suggestion, no self-hypnosis. Because with time and the repetition of your experience, the phenomenon can persuade, convince you about the reality of the another dimension. And all our subjects of studies is based, the fundamental, the essential principles, they are from the another dimension, because the phenomenon of a projectability with lucidity. One of the things that we consider very relevant for everybody is the maturity of the personality and the discernment. Discernment for us is to know what is the best and what is the worst. And you make the distinction about your priorities and your life. With this, the personality gets another level of lucidity, and can to live better, happier, more comfortable, with self-sufficiency. This, we think, is the main objective to all the science, all the knowledge, all the research, all the investigation that the mankind look for all the millenniums. With this, someone comes here and something happens. That is some kind of a transformation, some recycling. Then, if someone comes here, prepare himself to change habits, principles, way to live, and sometimes the line of preoccupations and investigations and studies.
What is most important for us is that you develop your capacity to have your own experience. So, for example, one question we can look at with regards to this answer: do we, for example, survive physical death? It's a question that has plagued humanity for a long, long time and persists to this day. There are many belief systems that address this issue, but how many of us can say that we have some evidence that is either for or against, that proves or disproves this issue? So then, when we consider the phenomenon of the out-of-body experience, we can see that one of the things that we can do with out-of-body experience is to go to the dimensions, to the places where we eventually end up after going through biological death. So the question becomes, where do we go after physical death? Is it possible for us to have a direct experience of that? And the answer is yes. When we look at the possibilities of out-of-body experience, we can see that we can be projected temporarily out of the body, of course, in the physical dimension, which is very interesting in and of itself. But also for this question, even more importantly, is the fact that we can be projected in non-physical dimensions. And that is indeed where we go when we pass on, when we leave this physical existence. One more time. So then, when we consider the issue of where do we go, we can also consider the issue of where do we come from. If we presume for a moment that we might have had other lifetimes, that we've had past lives, and it's very popular to consider this nowadays. If we presume that we are going to be having future lifetimes as well, where did we come from? Where are we going? So then we can look at where we were before we had this physical body. We can consider also where we are going to be, at least temporarily, after we discard this physical body, which is a perfectly natural process. So we can start considering the issue of what we at the Institute call the non-physical hometown, or rather, that non-physical community which we came from and which we're going to return to after biological deactivation. When we look at this issue, we can see that the possibility that out-of-body experience affords us is that of being able to actually visit these non-physical communities and to interact with others who are there. Indeed, to start recalling a lot more about our past and some ideas about our present and our future. When people, for example, ask, gosh, well, is it possible with out-of-body experience that I might be able to visit deceased loved ones? Absolutely. Is it possible that when I have an out-of-body experience that I can get some information that might not be accessible in this physical dimension? Absolutely.
Well, there are several reasons as to why a person would want to have an out-of-body experience. The first one is that, well, once we start to quest to find out a little more about ourselves, we start to realize that, in fact, we are much more than a physical body. In fact, we are of the consciousness, of the soul, and we happen to be spending periods of time, such as the one that we are going through right now, we're spending periods of time attached to a physical body, such as the one that we have. Now, the out-of-body experience is a very good tool, a very good mechanism for us to remain in contact with the true nature of who we really are, which is the soul, the consciousness. So even though we are attached to a physical body, if we have the ability to escape from it, ideally every single night when we go to sleep, then we get a much better appreciation for who we are as a consciousness. We are also capable of prioritizing some of the things that we're going through in this physical existence. One of the very important aspects as well of the out-of-body experience is that we start to realize that we are capable of achieving, of doing the exact same things when we leave the physical body as when we don't have a body. I'm referring here to the period when the physical body dies. See, notice that I didn't say that we die. The physical body dies, but we as a consciousness, we keep on existing. So as a result of leaving the physical body, we are capable of doing pretty much the same things that we do when we don't have, during those periods when we don't have a physical body. If you think about it, that gives numerous implications that we need to start to think, to question, to examine. For example, the whole issue of being afraid, the fear of death, fear of dying. Once we leave the physical body with lucidity, all that goes away. We know that we are much more than the physical body, such that even though at some point in time that physical body will disappear, will cease to exist, will die, we as a consciousness, we're going to keep on existing. Okay? The other aspect of why it's important for us to leave the physical body is that it seems that a large number of us, many of us people here in the physical body, we're not here per chance or by chance. In fact, it seems that as a result of being inside the physical body, well, it seems that a large number of us, prior to getting the physical body that we have right now, what most people refer to as prior to us reincarnating, we got a specific task, a life mission, what we call an existential program, a specific program, a detailed program of many tasks, many goals, many milestones that we needed to accomplish while we are here in the physical body. Okay? The reason why we go and obtain a life mission is for the purpose of eliminating some of the unnecessary repetition that we are very much prone, very much likely to go through as a result of getting one body after the next. Now, for those of us that, and many people do have existential programs, one very good way to identify the life mission that we have to execute here in the physical dimension, or the existential program as we call it, is by leaving the physical body and acquiring a much better appreciation for what we decided to do prior to getting the body. Okay? So it is a very good way for us to get on track and to stay on track with regards to our life mission. It is clear that given the number of people that go through the so-called midlife crisis, given the number of people that are going through the near-death experience, many of us are getting life missions. And the most important thing we could possibly accomplish as a result of getting a physical body, beyond the successful integration into our society and so on, it is the completion of the existential program that in fact we chose for ourselves.
So little by little, with more experiences, with more information, we are going to overcome this fear and enjoy a whole universe out there. We can go to other planets, you can go to Paris, you don't have to pay a ticket, you don't need a passport, it's very quick, and you can come back with the recollection, perfect recollection of everything that you did in another dimension, in another body. It is just a matter of knowledge, and there are some techniques that can help you improving the takeoff and coming back to the physical body. Once the out-of-body experience is a natural physiological process, many people have reported throughout the time and the ages and cultures that they had felt this and many other sensations. So little by little is to learn how to control the non-alignment of the bodies. Not only have those experiences in a natural way, but also it's important that through specific techniques you are able to control, to provoke the separation of the bodies. So many people have reported that they had the same experience when they are meditating, when they are about to go to bed to sleep, When they are watching TV, that you become a really bit relaxed and sleepy, and you can have an OBE. So there are many things that we can take advantage. The best, as I said before, is to overcome the fear. And this will happen when you have the knowledge, you have more experiences, and then you can do many other things. So for instance, we can do some assistential work outside of the body. Once we overcome our fear, we know that the sensation of feeling the body paralyzed, all the currents, vibrations throughout your body happens to you. You feel like, you know, a balloon, and you get used to that. You relax, and there you go. We can do assistential work. What type of assistential work can we do while we are outside of the body? So for instance, suppose you want to access your past lives. What have you done before? Once you want to evidence to yourself that we are more than the physical body, you can look, see your physical body lying down there, and you say to yourself, I'm more than this physical body, much more than that. How is it possible that I'm here in another body and at the same time I can see my physical body over there? So you come to the conclusion that you are more than this physical body. So therefore, when you come to the physical body, the approach that you're going to have about life, about yourself, is completely different. I mentioned before that we can access our past lives. So when you see through an out-of-body experience that you had other lives, you prove to yourself, because this is very, very real. It's like, you know, it's an evidence for you. We cannot prove this to anyone, but through your own experience, you can check it out that it is a reality, that you had other lives before. And then you notice that you had been in different bodies, in different cultures, in different activities, functions, and even genders. Sometimes you can be a man, come in a male body. Sometimes you can come in a female body, in different nationalities, a Brazilian, an American, Chinese. And therefore, when we have all these type of recollections and we perceive, yes, I'm not only this physical body. So again, you come back to the physical body, and we have a much broader sense of humanity, of altruism, universalism. You don't try to defend only your small little world, to defend, males or females is the best, or the Brazilians is the best, or the Americans. We have a different approach about life, about ourselves.
I went into this projection where I was speaking with people that were very creative. They loved music, they loved organization, and there was no anger. There was no violence. And this is the kind of projected life that I must have learned before I came here. So I was very happy. I was very happy to do that because it verifies the things I'm doing now. You see? That's what helps you. It helps you be more certain that you're on the right path, that you're doing your existential program. And but I think it's towards self-understanding and understanding of others, but especially yourself, self-analysis and self-education. You discover why you're doing the things you're doing. Even if it's a bad thing, you can see why you became that way from your projections. That's what I like about it.
In this show, from time to time, we're going to be presenting OBE techniques that you can try on your own. When we consider the OBE, it's important to remember that there are literally dozens of time-tested OBE techniques that work very well. So then, there are various types of OBE techniques. Some rely more on physical capacities, such as relaxation or breathing. Others rely on working with energy. Others still work with projective or visual images that tend to promote the out-of-body experience. When we consider working with the out-of-body experience, it's important that the individual have a collection of techniques, And why is this? This is because there is no one specific technique that works for everyone, because everybody is very, very individual. So then, what's useful is that the individual develop a collection of techniques, gather them, and start experimenting with them in a controlled condition, controlled environment, so that then you can find out which technique works best for you. Don't just try it once. It's good to try a technique a few times to start to get a feel for it and get used to it. Then, of course, you can change to another one if you wish, but after a while you'll find that there is one technique that tends to work better for you, and that's important. It's also important to understand that over time, your metabolism, your process, your lifestyle is going to change. So then it's useful sometimes for you to change to another technique. And that again is why it's very useful for you to have a collection of techniques. When we consider those who are preparing to project, to have OBEs, we need to understand, to remember also, that there are individuals who feel that they have never had an OBE, at least feel they haven't, because as we know it's a very natural process and happens indeed with everyone. There are also those who have had a few OBEs once in a while, and there are those who project quite frequently or quite a lot. Now, with all of these individuals, there are a couple of things to remember. One is that our projectability can always be improved. The other is that there are many individuals who have a certain reticence about projecting, that they're concerned about it or even afraid of it. As we may have already discussed, there is nothing to fear, although we do have to have, it's important that we have a good general understanding of the dynamics of multidimensional reality. When we encounter at the Institute those individuals who perhaps have had a few or a number of OBEs and are not able to control them, we understand how this can put a person off, can give them a certain degree of misunderstanding about it and reticence about it. But it's important to understand that we need to have information about the multidimensional reality, about the capacities of our non-physical bodies, about the dynamics of non-physical dimensions, and about the dynamics of energy, so that we can better control this very natural physiological process. Also, when we start developing or continue to develop our projectability, it's very important that the individual, and we recommend that the individual have a good level of cosmoethic. What do we mean by that? When a person is going to have an out-of-body experience, we recommend that the person consider why they want to have an out-of-body experience. What are they going to be doing with this very impactful and powerful capacity? We recommend that people who have OBEs do so with the intention of being positive, being constructive, being helpful, and certainly use this as a resource, a recourse for accelerating our own evolution and the evolution of others. To the degree we can be of assistance to others, it stimulates our evolution as well. So, we're going to be looking at various techniques throughout this program, and now we're going to go to a specific technique that you can try on your own. Are you ready? Now let's look at the mental concentration technique. In this technique, you can see that we're going to use the process of being seated in front of a candle and focusing on that process. But now, before we do it, of course, as with any projective technique, we want to prepare for it by being completely physically relaxed, very relaxed, as much as possible. We want to have worked with energy as much as possible, especially the vibrational state, and this will optimize the looseness of the energy, the looseness of the connection between the physical body and the non-physical body, between the soma and the psychosoma. Also, we want to have optimized our projective environment. We want to have a light-controlled environment so that the lights are dim but not completely dark. We want to have a sound-controlled environment so that we have no noises occurring, no phones ringing, no stereos blasting. And we want to have a temperature-controlled environment as well. We want to have it at a comfortable temperature and preferably on the cool side. Now, with this technique, also the preparation is necessary that we clear our minds of anything and everything that doesn't pertain to the projective task at hand. Now, we want to sit in front of a candle that's about 3 feet or so in front of us. It can be another object, but a candle is very useful because it's a source of light and it's easy to focus on. Now, when we're sitting, focusing on this candle, we want to see and experience the psychosoma lifting up and moving towards the candle. We want to visualize ourselves actually getting up and going, moving towards the candle, as though we're going to reach out and grab the actual flame. Focus on it entirely. That's the only thing you can think about. It absorbs your whole concentration. Focus on this candle and use all your willpower to move in that direction. What this does is it ultimately provokes a rapid, a quick, sudden separation of the psychosoma, a sudden takeoff, and you'll find yourself going towards and actually through the candle. Once this happens, of course, you'll realize that you're projected, and then you can go to any projected target that you desire.
The IIPC stands for the International Institute of Projectiology and Conscientiology. We are a non-profit organization of research and education. The research that we performed is primarily focused on consciousness. We're trying to identify what the consciousness is. And by consciousness, we're not referring to the state of being lucid or the state of being aware, but rather what most people would understand as the soul, the spirit, the ego, the intelligent principle. We are taking very much a scientific approach, and we are using primarily 2 tools to perform the research on consciousness. The first one is the out-of-body experience that you may have heard of in terms of the astral travel, so the ability to leave the physical body with lucidity and to get a much better perspective on who we are as a consciousness. The other tool that we apply is the control of bioenergy. You may have heard of bioenergy in terms of the ki or the chi, for example, when people talk about Tai Chi. Now, the minute that we talk about the ability to leave the physical body and the ability to control bioenergy, invariably we need to go in and look at paranormal phenomena. So we do spend a lot of time to the study of paranormal phenomena.
Now, why was the Institute founded? What exactly is the work of the Institute? When we consider the sciences of Conscientiology and Projectiology, we have to understand that what the Institute is doing is really approaching the area of consciousness research as an applied science. What do we mean by that? If we understand what the consciousness is, what we are, in a more empirical manner, in a more scientific manner, in a more practical, hands-on manner, then we're going to have a much greater understanding of who we are, what we are. We're going to understand our process as humanity much more clearly, and we're going to be much better equipped to move forward as human beings, indeed, as consciousnesses, as multidimensional beings. So, when we are considering the importance of the sciences of Conscientiology and Projectiology, we see that what is important is the clarification task. When we talk about the clarification task, this is the project, or this is the thrust of the Institute, or rather, as opposed to just making people feel better, to feel good, to be happy, it's important that we, as consciousnesses, as humankind, understand our process in even a surgical, more objective manner, so that we have the tools and the understanding about our process, but the essence of our process, so we can move ourselves forward from lifetime to lifetime, from dimension to dimension, from body to body, and even from planet to planet.
What we mean by clarification task? Clarification task is the type of assistential task in which we provide the individual with information and techniques in order to help his own evolution. Nobody can evolve for anyone. It is an individual process. So it's time to finish with middlemen. It's time that we empower the individual. clarify so that he can do his own evolution according to his needs, according to his own rhythm.
Hi, I'm a psychology master's student here in New York. I've been studying the clarification task now for 4 years, and I think that it is more valuable than some of the psychological processes that psychotherapy has to offer, for the main reason that it doesn't create any dependency, and it's not creating a false sense of, okay, I'm the psychologist, you've just talked about this, but you really fixed yourself. It's not really the psychologist that does it, it's the consciousness that allows the healing to take place. I think that's where psychology is missing the point. So with the clarification task, we offer the tools for the consciousness to heal themselves without dependency, without crutches, or needing a crystal or a meditation method or anything. And it also helps when you die and you are an extra physical consciousness, and when you come back next lifetime as an intraphysical consciousness. It's multi-dimensional and multi-existential. It is not just consoling someone at this point in their life to make them feel a little bit better, because it's never really going to help 10 years down the track. So the clarification task offers a lot more than just the consolation task that you would find in psychology.
So hands in hands, shoulders by shoulders, we can go together and learn with each other, but without any pathological dependency. So the clarification task can speed up your own evolution, and try to teach people to use his or her own free will in a cosmo-ethical way.
When we are endeavoring to move forward with our understanding of conscientiology and of the clarification task, it is essential that we do this with the utmost cosmoethic. What, in a nutshell, is a cosmoethic? We can consider the cosmoethic as compared to human ethic or human morality. Cosmoethic really is a non-physical ethic, or an extra-physical ethic, or a multi-dimensional ethic. Or rather, when we consider the repercussions, the consequences of our acts multidimensionally, multi-existentially, through various dimensions and over various lifetimes, we can see that what is required of us as far as being evolved human beings and evolved beings is a much higher level of ethics. Or rather, when we are able to appreciate the consequences of our actions, not just in the human dimension, in the physical dimension, but actually through to other dimensions, through to other lifetimes, we can see that the consequences of our actions are much greater, are much more impactful, and carry a heavier weight and repercussion for ourselves and for many others.
The IIPC was founded by Dr. Valdo Vieira. He is a lucid projector since the age of 9, and for over 50 years now he's been studying the consciousness. He is, I would say, the foremost authority on consciousness research. Over the years he has accumulated probably what is the largest library on the subject of consciousness research. He's taking the approach whereby, again, we're taking the scientific approach, and we are studying the consciousness, basically who we are, in terms of a new scientific paradigm. We refer to that paradigm as the consciential paradigm, which is based on the consciousness itself.
For us, it's very important all the ways that they use and the techniques. The Conscientiology today has more than 250 theories. But for us, this is secondary, because for us, we must make the adjustment between the theory and the practical way of life. Then we must put all this theory in the field and live with this every day in the daily life. And this technology or para-technology, transcendental technology, can give to the personality that is a victim of the brainwashing, all kinds of conditionaments, all kinds of repression, can give this personality, when this personality wants to change his life, do something, make some renewing about all kinds of principles in the life, all the ways of philosophy, of the sides of the science, from all kinds of principles that someone has since the childhood, the youth, since the principle of his life here. If you can renew himself, you can use this technology all over, any place, anywhere, according to your temper, the way that you live, the things that you like, with the people that you love. Then someone come here and renewing his life over there in his physical hometown and make all the changement, all the recycling, all the renewing that he needs.
So the International Institute of Projectiology and Conscientiology has a board of directors in Rio de Janeiro, as well as many projects. One of the big projects nowadays is what we call the Campus Project in the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro, in which we're going to sit or be a big campus with the schools, labs, a big auditorium where we can sit the therapists, and many other facets of the Institute. In the south of Brazil, Iguaçu Falls, we have the research facility, which is called CAEC, our Center for High Studies of Consciousness. There we do many of our researches, and we have many labs in which the individual can have his or her own experience. It's very important that people don't believe in anything. It's very important that the person has an open mind and study, get information, and try to live this information, and then he or she come to his or her own conclusion. So that's what we do in the south of Brazil. We provide specific labs, different goals, such as a lab in which you can experience more than 20 types of out-of-body techniques. We can also experience a lab in which you can access your past lives, your previous experiences, and also vibration state, have experiences with your own energy. Of course, there are more labs, and the best is that you go there to get to know us a little bit better.
When I first came to the Institute, I was very impressed with their sign that's in every Institute office. Don't believe in anything and to have your own experience, which to me gave me freedom to analyze and study my own experiences rather than just listening to someone instructing me on what I should be experiencing and how to interpret it. The Institute has a large research basis in all paranormal experiences that everybody can have. For me, I'd had some very diverse experiences that no other place or book could actually give me an explanation for. So I found it very useful for me to be able to reference it, put it in context, not think that I was better than anybody or that I was any worse than anybody. So I could fit it all together. It gave me a clearer picture.
There are literally dozens of research groups that focus in different areas of consciousness research. Some of them may focus more directly on OBE. Others may focus more on energy. Others still may focus more on the issue of projectiology and conscientiology per se. For example, we have research groups that focus on researching the projectiology book, as it were, as a resource tool, and how can that be applied. We also have research groups that focus on studying and working with the other treatise that we have, 700 Conscientiology experiments. These two treatises propose the science of conscientiology and projectiology per se. So then we can look at these two works as practical works that allow us to have useful working tools that give us the ability to better research the areas of projectiology and conscientiology, or rather, projectiology being the science that studies the out-of-body experience, and conscientiology, the science that studies the consciousness, or the intelligent principle, or essence, or ego.
Well, the consciential paradigm, it acts as a foundation for the two sciences that were created since the inception of the Institute. The consciential paradigm, as its basis again on the fact that the current scientific paradigm that we've done so well with, because it is physicalist, materialistic, and reductionist in nature, is not the appropriate paradigm for us to go and examine something as subtle or transcendent as the consciousness or the astral body or the psychosoma, as we call it. So it was clear that if we are going to be successful in taking a scientific approach to the research that we're performing, a new paradigm was required. This new paradigm, again, we refer to it as the consciential paradigm, and for those of us that have the ability or have experienced the out-of-body experience, it is clear that we are much more than the physical body. So thereby, the reason to have a scientific paradigm which transcends the physicality of each one of us. Because, again, we need to develop methodologies and, indeed, a technology that will assist us in that type of research. Until we're able to develop that type of technology, the consciential paradigm requires that we are going to be both the scientist and the subject matter under study. So we're talking about a participative type of research where we are going to be relying very much on our own personal experience to identify who we are as a consciousness and to perform the research, indeed, on the out-of-body experience and who we are.
We regularly give free public lectures. This is very important because there are more and more individuals nowadays who are curious to understand and who want an objective response to questions such as who are we, what are we, why are we here, are there other dimensions? These very important questions that have to do with multidimensionality and the various realities, the various dimensions and the bodies that we have. We also give theoretical and practical educational activities. These are essential because throughout humanity, and especially more recently, we've had more and more information and unfortunately sometimes a good deal of misinformation about the nature of multidimensionality, the nature and the processes of psychic or paranormal phenomena, and also the know-how as to how can we develop our own capacity to work with energy and to work with paranormal phenomena. So then, at the Institute, we have a core program that we call the Consciousness Development Program, or the CDP, that is given in various stages or modules that allows the individual to have a good theoretical basis or framework so they can have a good understanding of not only the sciences of projectiology and conscientiology, but the dynamics of multidimensionality per se. Why are we in China? It's important to mention that the reason we are in China is that in many ways conscientiology as a science began in China thousands of years ago. Much, of course, has happened in thousands of years. Humankind has learned a great deal. We've come to a greater technological understanding and scientific understanding of the consciousness and the phenomena that are related to the consciousness, and now we're very pleased to be able to take this information that we have to China, where this information is very well received and people are very apt, they're very capable at applying the techniques that are used at IIPC. so we look forward to great things in China.
China becomes a very important project of the IIPC once there is so much knowledge there already being developed and experienced for the millenniums. But what's needed now is the renovation with the clarification task. Once they are so good at energy, as we know, they work very much with Qi, Qigong, but it's needed to transcend the use of Qi, to use Qi or bioenergy in other dimensions. In the past, throughout the history, we have already known that there are many famous and in the history, such as Confucius and others that belong to China. And little by little, those ideas became a little bit repressed, and now it's time that those ideas come to the surface in a very delicate way, in a way that people, each individual, can do his or her own clarification task.
In this show, from time to time, we're going to be presenting OBE techniques that you can try on your own. When we consider the OBE, it's important to remember that there are literally dozens of time-tested OBE techniques that work very well. So then, there are various types of OBE techniques. Some rely more on physical capacities, such as relaxation or breathing. Others rely on working with energy. Others still work with projective or visual images that tend to promote the out-of-body experience. When we consider working with the out-of-body experience, it's important that the individual have a collection of techniques. And why is this? This is because there is no one specific technique that works for everyone, because everybody is very individual. So then, what's useful is that the individual develop a collection of techniques, gather them, and start experimenting with them in a controlled condition, controlled environment, so that then you can find out which technique works best for you. Don't just try it once. It's good to try a technique a few times to start to get a feel for it and get used to it. Then, of course, you can change to another one if you wish, but after a while you'll find that there is one technique that tends to work better for you, and that's important. It's also important to understand that over time, your metabolism, your process, your lifestyle is going to change. So then it's useful sometimes for you to change to another technique. And that again is why it's very useful for you to have a collection of techniques. Now let's look at the technique. It's important, as always, to make sure that we're totally relaxed, physically relaxed, that we've worked with energy to loosen the connection between the bodies sufficiently to optimize that looseness and the good shape of the physical and non-physical bodies. Also to optimize your environment, to have a light-controlled environment, a dim light, to have a sound-controlled environment. You want it as quiet as possible, and to have a temperature-controlled environment. You want to have it at a comfortable temperature, preferably on the cooler side. Now that you've done this, you can start planning where you're going to go. In this technique, you want to choose a target. We recommend that you choose a target, some place or some object that you have a rapport with, of course, respecting the privacy of others. Once you've chosen this target that you have rapport with, this is going to facilitate the motivation for you to leave your body and to have a projection to that projective target. So now, we want to either laying down or in a seated position, see which is more comfortable for you. We want to relax, work with energy, and focus on this target as much as possible. For this technique, we need to use as much our capacity for mental focus. Now, with any technique, if, while we're focusing, our mind becomes distracted, of course, we just want to return our focus, our attention, to the projective task at hand and continue with the technique. So what we want to do is we want to put the image of this object or place in our minds, make it as clear, as realistic as possible for us, and then will ourselves to go to that target. You want to actually see yourself moving to that target, going to that target, being where that target is, with as much decisive, ironclad will as possible.
You make your self-defense about the energy with the people that you live with. You develop, for instance, all kinds of your mental soma, your discernment, beyond all these bad habits that we have. If you see, for instance, it's a pity when you see the photos, the big photos, that someone posed like I am here in this chair, but with a big cigar in the fingers. And you see Jung, Freud, with a big cigar, a pipe, and making pose with triumph, position, and situation, and condition. It's a pity because the immaturity of the personality about one so simple habit, but terrible. You see that tobacco is terrible. It's one of the biggest diseases that we have already, so far, all over in the world. And you see all these people, church with a cigar. See all the biggest figure of the century, 20th century. Then you see the maturity goes all over and get all kinds of personality, including all the biggest, the celebrities, the famous, the genius that we have in the encyclopedia. Then when you go outside the body, you get the another level of knowledge about your priorities and your evolution and your existential program. And you stay happier with this. You don't feel that you are better than all these people that I told to you. It's not like that. But you feel that you are in the way, in the correct line of preoccupation and objective. This is very important because since all the old times in the human history, everybody looks for something like that.
In Conscientiology and Projectiology, we have two important tools and simple tools that people can use. The first tool is bioenergetic techniques, daily, practical, and with discipline and decision. Second tool, out-of-body experience, conscious out-of-body experience, that you can train into and repeat and have a good performance if you decide it. People are, consciousness are very different ones of others, but we have the same necessities. The evolution, it's a big necessity, a common necessity, and so it's more easy if you have a helper, if you have techniques, if you have tools.
Projectiology is the first neuroscience that depends on the new scientific paradigm as a foundation. And projectiology, it defends the possibility or the theory that we have more than a physical body. So it's defending the theory that, in fact, we are a consciousness, a soul, a spirit, an intelligent principle, and that, in fact, we have several vehicles of manifestation that we are going to be using, that we are going to be manifesting with in several extra-physical dimensions. So, for example, beyond or besides the physical body, projectiology defends the possibility that we have energetic body, what we call holo chakra. We have a psychosoma that most people refer to as the astral body. And beyond that, in fact, we have one other body that we refer to as the mental body. So projectiology is looking at the makeup, the constitution of all those different bodies that I was referring about. It studies the process whereby we're able to separate one body from the other, and the whole process of the out-of-body experience. The OBE is simply a process that we go through, most of us go through every single night, whereby we separate, we use a more subtle vehicle, and as a result of using that more subtle vehicle, we separate away from the physical body, and we experience other realities, other dimensions, using that one more subtle vehicle. The science itself, it looks at the process whereby we're capable of separating the different vehicles. In fact, it looks at several techniques whereby we're able to produce that separation. And indeed, it looks at the different dimensions that we're capable of achieving as a result of separating away from the physical body.
The ideal is when you are fully conscious and you drop down to the appropriate brainwave without losing lucidity. So you're still in the waking state, but you are at the appropriate brainwave to go out of your body, and then you go out of body. So the whole thing is like a continuous consciousness experience. Some people that comes to, but I've been told that that can take some time. In my case, what was happening was that I would drop down to the appropriate brainwave. You know, I didn't have an EEG on me or anything, but I know that I was there, like REM, light sleep, and I'd be dreaming, but it would be a lucid dream. And then suddenly within the dream, something would trigger me. Oh yeah, that's right, I was going to try and get out of my body. And so I would, I'd bring myself back immediately, and I'd maintain my state of being, I've been asleep if you like, but I was awake within the sleep process, being aware that I was lying on my bed, being aware that I was in a vibrational state, and with the awareness that I wanted to get out of my body. And so I'd lie there and allow the vibrations to take hold, and sometimes I'd have to do some energy work myself, like make sure I sped up the vibrations a little, and then allow the separation to occur. It's really good fun when you separate for the first time. Well, I mean, I don't tire of it. Sometimes it's more lucid than other times. Sometimes you get out and, oh, that's right, I'm out, and it's very dark and you don't see what's going on. Other times you even get like noises and stuff as you come out, and you can hear like a ripping noise in your head. I had one last week where I kind of got pulled to the side a little, and I felt a tearing like from my knee to my foot as it got torn away. It was the last part of my body to separate, and that's quite good fun. You know, it's not the sort of thing you'd expect in your life if you didn't accept the fact that you can get out of your physical body.
The ideal is to get informed about this. Some time ago, not some time ago, many decades or centuries, okay, we have already had reports of people mention those experiences. But at that time, what happened? If we had this experience and presented those experiences to the public, as you are doing now, what would happen to us? What does it mean? No more physical body. It was a prohibited subject. But now, near to the 2000 year, when man goes to Mars, go outside of this planet here, there are so much technology to go out of this planet. We also should apply para-technology, extra-physical technology. You applying some specific techniques to have those experiences outside of the body and explore a big, huge universe.
According to our statistics, the research that we've performed, every single one of us, to one extent or the other, every time that we go to sleep, we go through what we call a natural separation, a natural non-alignment of the different vehicles. Okay, that means that even though we may not be aware of it, every time that we go to sleep, typically we will rise above the physical body. We tend to hover there, anywhere from a few inches to a few feet. But because it is what we call a spontaneous separation from the physical body, typically we do not acquire what I'd call a decent level of lucidity. And since we're not lucid during that state, we also go back into the physical body in the early hours of the morning and we don't remember. Okay? But I'm sure every single one of us, we've gone through what some people will call being kicking ourselves awake in the early stages of sleep. So in that twilight zone, when we're falling off to sleep, very often we create a scenario where it seems that we're falling off a cliff. Well, a few of those situations, we know that right away a separation took place away from the physical body, and because the brain, the physical brain, is still active, it is not able to reconcile the fact that, yes, I'm still here in the body, but there is a portion of me which is already floating up above where I am. The only way that we are capable of it, or that our brain is capable of resolving that situation, is by creating some type of a threat, like, for example, a cliff. So you're falling off a cliff, and all of a sudden, you go into the physical body, from one moment to the next. There are other situations which are indicative that most people, if not everyone, they are leaving the physical body during the sleeping hours. It's a situation that we refer to as sleep paralysis. The actual scientific term is cataleptic, the cataleptic state. This is a process where, again, more than likely, one of our more subtle vehicles of manifestation is separated, is moved away. In the early hours of the morning, typically it comes back, except that we don't go into full alignment back into the physical body. So typically there is a portion of the extra-physical body which is in contact with the physical body already, and because most of it is still out, or it is still out of the body, then we're not capable of moving. And that typically creates a panicky type of situation where the person, they're already aware of being there, they're aware of their sense of self, but they're not able of moving. They're frozen, they're locked in, they're paralyzed with regards to their physical body. That is, again, indicative that the vehicles are still out of separation and that the person is possibly coming back. It is a very important state in the sense that if we are capable eventually of learning to control the panic, controlling that overall fear, then it is very important in the sense that we grow to realize that most of the hard work has been done already. Most of the astral body is already away from the physical body. It is simply a question of controlling the amount of fear, rationalizing what is taking place, thinking of a target, and right away would be able to separate and move into an extra physical dimension. Okay? So we consider that the OBE is a natural phenomena that everyone is capable of going through, in the sense that we are experiencing an extra physical reality with a more subtle vehicle of our manifestation. And it is, again, we consider that most people are capable of achieving it. As we say at the IIPC, it's not so much that we are teaching people how to leave the physical body. It is more that we are giving them information and techniques to realize that they've left the body already.
So little by little, reading about this type of subjects, applying specific techniques, we become more detached from the physical body. We don't worship so much our intraphysical daily life. So therefore, this situation will help us to overcome the take off the sensations that can happen when we are leaving the physical body.
When we consider the issue of gleaning, of accessing original ideas that do not yet occur in the physical dimension, this is one of the very definite and very direct benefits of the out-of-body experience. We, from our research at the IIPC, consider that the majority of the great discoveries and great ideas that have come to humankind have actually been sourced through out-of-body experiences. Or rather, even though the individual may not perceive or understand or conclude that they were having or had had an out-of-body experience, that actually a great deal of information has come from out-of-body experiences that are not correctly perceived. Many times it's important to point out that individuals, when they're having their natural, spontaneous, many times nocturnal experiences, are having out-of-body experiences. Why do we say this? Because we find also through our research that the out-of-body experience is a perfectly natural, normal, physiological process, or rather, one that happens with everyone every night. So we find that people do project, they have out-of-body experiences, even if they don't understand it as such, even if they don't have much or any control over it. Most of the time, people have purely spontaneous out-of-body experiences. So then, we can see that if we start to investigate this for ourselves a little bit more and start to understand the objective reality of the OBE phenomenon, we can start developing our capacity to get access to a lot of information that is out there, that is very valuable for us.
On a global level, these studies are invaluable. Okay, I'm going to spread it out. If I am experiencing this feeling, it would be kind of the 100th monkey effect. If everyone starts to understand themselves and come out of their shells, I think that would be a tremendous effect on humanity. If we all come out to help people, to assist people that are trapped. How many individuals are trapped right now in psychiatric wards, for example? Because I'm studying psychology, I'm majoring in psychology and in Romance languages, and I think of all the people that are trapped. Schizophrenics who are diagnosed as schizophrenics, and when in essence they may have only had clairaudience, being able to hear beings in another dimension, being able to see energy. If I were to walk into a clinic right now, the psychiatric department of any of the hospitals, notorious hospitals here in New York City, I would probably be classified as a schizophrenic, where in essence I'm not. So I think of, in that level, that knowledge, if it were to spread within the psychiatric community alone, the psychological community alone, I can only think of how many people would be rescued in this sense. And that's the sense, the deeper sense that I have of, I want to rescue people who are trapped by emotions of the past sometimes. Some of these emotions are things that we're still holding on to. And I think that is a growing experience to be able to let go of our past. And so if we let go of it collectively, I think humanity would be better off in that sense. If we let go of the old wars that we're still perpetuating in the Mideast, in South America right now, all the military presences, the paranoias that we have in our society right now. I feel very strongly about that.
I came in contact with the Institute and started to realize that maybe this type of phenomena experience is more important than many of the other ones, because it incorporated direct contact with the extra-physical help. It incorporated different parapsychic phenomena, more interactive with other people, not just you on your own. And I started to read a body of work about projections, and it started to become clear to me that projecting is one of the best things you can do, rather than like having channeling somebody, rather than having clairvoyant experiences. It's an all-in-one package. It's you, the whole thing, with your helpers directly, with other people directly, not just kind of like a bit of an image or seeing someone's aura and going, oh, I've seen your aura, it's orange, you know, like it's actually like you're there directly with them doing something or experiencing something. There's many different things that you can experience, but I won't go into them now. Projectiology comes under the umbrella of Conscientiology, and Conscientiology is I think more important. Personally for me, it's something that attracted me to the Institute other than just the phenomena of projecting, because that's good, and as I've explained, it's an all-in-one parapsychic package that you can have to develop yourself and develop your awareness and develop your understanding of the multidimensional reality. And we're all here to improve ourselves, to develop, to understand ourselves better and understand the condition and the state that we live in. This is a short period of time in the intraphysical body, and then we'll be extraphysical again. And how do you deal with that? Projectiology helps you with that. Also Conscientiology, because the experience you have studying Conscientiology will enable you to facilitate better your existence after dying or after leaving this physical body.
In this show, from time to time, we're going to be presenting OBE techniques that you can try on your own. When we consider the OBE, it's important to remember that there are literally dozens of time-tested OBE techniques that work very well. So then, there are various types of OBE techniques. Some rely more on physical capacities, such as relaxation or breathing. Others rely on working with energy. Others still work with projective or visual images that tend to promote the out-of-body experience. When we consider working with the out-of-body experience, it's important that the individual have a collection of techniques. And why is this? This is because there is no one specific technique that works for everyone, because everybody is very, very individual. So then, what's useful is that the individual develop a collection of techniques, gather them, and start experimenting with them in a controlled condition, controlled environment, so that then you can find out which technique works best for you. Don't just try it once. It's good to try a technique a few times to start to get a feel for it and get used to it. Then, of course, you can change to another one if you wish, but after a while you'll find that there is one technique that tends to work better for you, and that's important. It's also important to understand that over time, your metabolism, your process, your lifestyle is going to change. So then it's useful sometimes for you to change to another technique. And that again is why it's very useful for you to have a collection of techniques. Now we're going to look at an OBE technique called partial projection technique. In this technique, we're going to be working with the partial projection of the astral body, or psychosoma, as we call it. When we work with the psychosoma, it's interesting to find that it's very easy to manipulate it or to work with it. The psychosoma is a very light, subtle body, and the way we move it is using our will or intention. So in this technique, literally what is going to occur is we are going to be working with, through our intention, partially separating the psychosoma, part by part by part by part. With any technique, keep in mind that what's important prior to the technique is to relax as much as possible, to put yourself in a controlled environment. Light controlled, the light should be dim. Temperature controlled, the temperature should be comfortable, preferably on the cooler side. Minimize any noises, any possible noises, unplug the phone, etc. And be ready to take notes after you come back from your projection. So now, we're going to work with the partial projection of the psychosoma. We've already relaxed, we've already controlled our environment, we've already worked with energy, especially the vibrational state. As you can see, we want to start by separating one part of the psychosoma. We're going to start separating one of the legs of the psychosoma, lifting it up, maintaining it in that position for a while, and returning it to its original position. Now we want to separate the other non-physical leg of the psychosoma in the same manner. Now let's separate one of the arms of the psychosoma, lifting it up again and holding it in that position. Now we can separate another one of the arms of the psychosoma. It's good to remember that when we're working with a psychosoma, it's very subtle. So don't worry about what it's supposed to feel like. It feels exactly the way it does. Now you can try separating the head and upper torso of the psychosoma. Lift it up, see how far you can get it, and hold it in that position. You can repeat this with each of the parts of the psychosoma a few times, and continue going around this cycle that we have created until you feel a sufficient looseness between the psychosoma and the physical body or the soma. When this occurs, you want to will the psychosoma to further lift up out of the physical body. See it raising higher, higher, and higher, and then go to your projective target, the target that you've chosen that you want to project to. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have a question that you would like answered on the show, please send it in for consideration. And tune in again as we examine other realms of consciousness.